Introducing the new party. We live stream Monday through Thursday 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
It's gonna come out how it come out. You feel me? Yo, none of this is rehearsed. Everything is off the top.
Vulgar. Welcome to the man cave.
What's good, y'all? Welcome to the man cave tonight, where it's uncut, raw, unfiltered. We got a guest tonight, Kylie. Would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Hi, my name is Kylie, and I am a relationship coach. I'm a non-monogamy advocate, sexual freedom advocate, and I also work to destigmatize non-monogamy and, alternative lifestyles and, sexualities.
All right, cool. All right, well, she'll be with us tonight. You know, we get crazy. She gonna get crazy with us. I'm Vulgar.
I'm Gray Mars.
And I'm Easy.
All right, let's get the show started. First video.
Y'all boys, wow.
All right, this might be a long one, but I think it's needed. All right, this is about Jasmine Crockett.
All right.
You look at her state income tax or state salary. She filed $2,400, and the year before that, $55,000. She ain't making no money in any other earnings that we know of, other than being a House of Representative. But then somehow she worth $8 million from stocks. And you go look at all of these House of Representatives, look at all of these people in Congress that are worth exponentially more money than when they started. What do they all got? Investment in day trading, and I mean not day trading, but putting their stuff in the market, probably insider trading. All right, let's listen to what this. I'm not gonna. Don't say it, Brandon. Don't talk about people because you're supposed to be a Christian. Let me, Representative Crockett. Let's roll what she had to say. Roll
As it relates to X, he has never made a profit since he bought X. In fact, the value of X is 75% lower than it has ever been. So if I am going to go look for somebody to run a business, I'm going to look for someone who is going to run one successfully. And before people start screaming and yelling about, well, he's a billionaire. Yeah, when you know the right people and they'll just give you money, then you can become a billionaire too. And maybe one day all of us will have that kind of access. But until...
Hold on. Shawty. You making the whole black race look bad. Put her ugly head back on there. You making all us look bad, sister. You can't be this silly. You went to college. You got a degree. You have a law firm. Are you this silly and don't know how business works? Tesla, he's never made a profit on X. I think she said Twitter, right? He never made a profit on Twitter. It's the lowest evaluation that it has ever had. If you had any common sense whatsoever, you know that when he bought X or bought Twitter, it was overinflated to start with. It wasn't worth $40 billion. They over-exaggerated it. There was a whole bunch of bots on the system. And he said this at the beginning. We all knew this at the beginning. But he decided that saving free speech was more important than this overinflated valuation of X. So we all knew it's a crap show. That's not about managing business. She has to be the dumbest person in the world, because you could just go to PayPal, you could go to Tesla, you could go to SpaceX, you could go down a list of the things that he developed, OpenAI. All of these are multi-billion-dollar companies. Tesla's a $1 trillion company. Ma'am, you picked Twitter that he acquired with other investors to act like he don't have a business acumen. The dude just rescued people from outer space with the Space Force Dragon. and what you doing? Your law firm, you don't made $26,000. You dirty little son of a gun. Put another clip up there, because I want to rub it in like that dog that poo on the carpet. Rub the dog face in it. Let's see how silly she get, because I think she is #1 most ignorant person in the entire government. Roll the clip.
It is not a criminal violation to enter the country illegally. It's not a criminal. It's a crime. It's not.
Is it a crime or a misdemeanor to enter the country illegally?
It's a crime to enter the country illegally. On Title 8, United States Code 1325, and it's really pathetic that any member of Congress don't understand what the law says. They wrote the law. They enacted the law. It was signed by the president. It's a criminal violation to enter the country illegally. If you've entered prior, it's a felony. So, I've been saying this for I don't know how long on your show, and I had to educate AOC years ago during the hearing that it's a crime to enter this country illegally, and we're going to enforce those laws.
This is a stunning achievement. There's no other way to put it. Stunning turnaround in a month.
Rita, there was a lot of misinformation in.
All right. So I'm going to start with Gray. Why do you think the left keep pushing this narrative that entering the country is not a crime?
I knew you was going to come for me, but I think that when they're talking about it, they are downplaying it, and I think that was a weakness for the left. I think that, especially now, because you look on TikTok everywhere, people like, oh, okay, you guys want to look at immigration like slavery because y'all want low wages. But what I want to say specifically about Jasmine Crockett, it's like if a black girl is acting hood, like it's like they go all on her. Does she get out of line? Yes, but I think she kind of has the same personality as Candace Owens, and Candace Owens gets a pass because she's a Republican. I definitely think that.
Would you agree, Kylie?
I mean, I think that I had to disagree with some of the, I think a lot of people expect me to be like this leftist person, and I'm really not. I'm actually a libertarian, and I believe in freedom, just freedom of expression. That's what sexual freedom is all about, actually. But I definitely think that, again, it's very nuanced. There's a lot more to it. Especially when it comes to like legal definitions and, human rights frameworks. So I think it's more nuanced. Yeah.
Okay, easy.
Yeah, I don't understand why people think that it's not a crime. I mean, you got to go through processes and paperwork to be a citizen here. So, I mean, to me, it's as clear as day. I mean, you got to go through the processes to be a civilian in this country. It's clear.
All right, so I'm gonna ask a question, and anybody want to jump in, y'all could jump in. Do y'all think Jasmine Crockett is attacking Elon because he's a threat to the system that protects her?
No, I think that she's a progressive. Right now, AOC and Bernie Sanders are getting a lot of attention. The Democratic Party's approval numbers are abysmal, and she sees an opportunity to throw her hat in the ring to run for U.S. president. Nobody else is attacking Trump, really, so she's trying to be known as that person, and she's got a lot of attention. She got an interview on Breakfast Club. She's been on The View, all because she's talking all this trash. But I feel like all politicians come in, then they know inside information with stocks and finances, and then they get rich. So she's not the only one doing that.
Oh, but do you think, like, saying she's not the only one that's doing it, I can agree with you on that. But do you think that would be a good reason for her to be attacking him? Like, let me get him before he finds something on me, because that's what Elon is pretty much doing. He's scanning through everything in the government.
No, I think it's for personal gain and for political ambitions.
What about you, Easy? Do you think this
Honestly,
like a
yeah.
preemptive strike?
Yeah. I think she's throwing some low blows. I mean, because everybody is not totally agreeing with what he's doing right now. I mean, like I said before in the other episodes, like Trump is right now is destroying and trying to rebuild, and everybody's not liking that process right now. So that's what it is.
Kylie?
So I definitely think that she had some points, some good points. I don't necessarily think she was all wrong. I think that, bringing up Twitter and X was probably one of the worst ways that she could have went, about that point, especially somebody who agrees with free speech. And I use Twitter and X as well, for my online I guess persona. And, it's been one of the only platforms that hasn't used me as like a way to, I guess, take me down. I've never been taken down on Twitter. Especially since he got it. So, I mean, I think it was just bad wording, and I think she could have used other better ways of saying it.
Yeah. On pushback on Gray, you're saying you think they just mess with her because she's on the left. I would have to disagree to say that her and Candace Owens are similar. Like, you don't see Candace Owens dancing to music and protest, right?
Oh
Do you
yes,
think
but
you think she could move better just far as like the qualm and how she comes off? Because to me, she comes off very much hood in a sense.
okay, to me, right, she is over the top and she does fit the stereotype to a certain degree, right?
Yeah.
But with Candace Owens, she can be over the top, but she's married to a white man. Her children are biracial. She's a Republican. She's around Trump and all these other people. So like her aggression isn't just seen as more as of a threat. Now, is she a little bit more classy? Yes. But I feel like they kind of have some forms of the same aggression. And they're both kind of dark skinned girls. So they already got that pressure on them. And then they're in politics. So it's like they got to hold themselves a certain way. But I'll say Michelle Obama is probably one that I've seen carry herself with complete class and doesn't fit a stereotype at all.
And so I guess a better question would be, do you think that how she carries herself warrants some of the criticism that's coming her way? And this is something that can go towards Kylie, because you're about freedom of expression. You believe in freedom of expression, but do you agree that you should accept the consequences that come with it, or should people just go along with it?
I think that people need to be more open-minded, especially to other people's backgrounds, where they came from, because we all have, we're all human, and we have something to bring, to the conversation. And I think that that's the important part. I do think that it has, there's a lot of eyes on her because of, the way that she does carry herself. Just like Gray said, I think she carries herself very differently than Candace Owens does. So, but I do think that people need to be more open-minded, especially when it comes to politics, because let's face it, it's not going well, and it hasn't for a long time, on either side of, right or left, in my opinion. So I definitely think just being more open-minded to different types of people with different opinions.
Easy, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I want to say, yeah, there's definitely an attack on freedom of speech, and it's clearly shown right now. So I think people need to be more open-minded, like Callie said, and I don't know, we just got to pray, man, and just keep on going.
My personal opinion is that certain traditions should be upheld, and I think a lot of how she's just running her mouth is just image is important. How people view you is important, and we want to change that, but you really can't. So it's like, I think a lot of the attention that she's getting as negative is warranted, because she's putting out that energy and she's getting it back. And I know people want to protect her, but I'm like, if you don't want that energy back, you need to carry yourself better. Yeah, maybe Elon is doing some things that are wrong, but if you're going to attack him, it should be more. I think you should. I honestly don't think she knows what she's talking about. Just like Tatum said, she's in the law. Like, stick to law. Don't come on the financial side, because the stuff that she said, we did. I even knew that. I even knew when he bought X that it was filled with bots. That's why I stopped going on it when it was Twitter, because it was just so much spam. I don't know if y'all remember back when the Nike shoes, when everybody was getting spam with Nike shoes on their page. That's what turned me off to it. But I'm going to go to the next subject. If anybody don't have anything else to say on this one.
Nah, I would just basically say, in that movie Crash, when Terrence Howard told Ludacris, You embarrassing me. That's what Jasmine Crockett need to hear. Like, you on a national stage, like, leave. Don't do the stereotype in a public view. It's gonna make it harder for us.
Yeah, and honestly, to me, it's like it would be like if she was male, it would be like a guy sagging his pants and coming on stage and talking. That's the same vibe I get when she talks. Like, she doesn't filter. Like, you got to have a filter somewhere. You can have expression, but it has to be limits. All right, so now we're gonna go to the Tesla Tea Party.
Targeted attack against a Tesla facility.
Yet another Tesla dealership vandalized, this time in Las Vegas. Authorities arriving in the early morning hours Tuesday to find multiple cars set on fire.
We believe the suspect approached the business wearing all black clothing, and he used what appear to be Molotov cocktails and a firearm to conduct his attack.
Now, this incident follows other cases in recent days in places like Kansas City, Missouri, as well as Southern California and the Chicago area, where Tesla dealers were vandalized. Tesla founder Elon Musk took to Twitter to call this terrorism. Now, officials have not yet formally ruled this an act of terrorism, but the FBI says its Joint Terrorism Task Force is conducting a robust investigation in order to try to find the perpetrator and the motive.
Violent acts like this are unacceptable. We will come after you, we will find you, and prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law.
All right, so storming the Capitol was domestic terrorism. What do you call burning down the Tesla lot?
Well, today, I don't know if y'all heard, a guy drove into protesters at a Tesla facility because they were boycotting it. So, I mean, are you saying that this is the same as January 6th?
I'm just saying that, are we going to call it out for what it is, or are we going to justify it because we feel like, or the left feels like Elon is doing something he shouldn't?
I don't think anybody should be allowed to necessarily destroy private property, but I think trying to overthrow the government is a big difference than people destroying personal vehicles of, people. To me.
Easy.
I mean, I want to call it what it is. It's arson. That's what it is, bro. It's people going around committing crimes because they hating on Elon. I don't know what's going on, man. I'm just watching the news, dog.
So you think it should be classified as a terrorist act? Or is that going too far?
This is why we keep you on the man.
I mean,
we don't have you on a
to me, a terrorist act is like 9/11, or Al Qaeda putting bombs on their bodies, running the buildings. To me, that's terrorism. This is just arson. To me, this is just arson. Is what it is.
So not domestic.
It's arson. That's what it's classified as. I classify it as arson.
Okay. Kylie?
I have to agree. Like, I think that when we misrepresent and label it something like terrorism, I think that really the only thing that does is justify more harsh surveillance. And, I'm a millennial. I lived through 9/11, and, the reality is it's more surveillance afterwards. And I'm not saying that, like, I'm not here to talk conspiracies because that's, me long ago, but really that's what it is. And that's why I think that they're labeling it that's not to say that, like, it's not terrible and that you should go and burn down things, but people are angry and people are, really upset. And I don't think that we're going to come to any sort of resolve of anything that's going on politically unless people start, getting a little violent. And that's just the reality of it. But I think labeling it terrorism 1000% has everything to do with a surveillance state.
You missed a conspiracy guy. He took off tonight.
Yeah.
Guy that's with us, he's a super conspiracy theorist. Go ahead, Vogler.
No, I was going to ask, did you want to elaborate or push back on that?
I mean, there's probably some truth to that. I mean, what I'll put out there, and since I'll help you right wing guys, I'm surprised when none of y'all didn't say this, that people are saying that, we may have talked about this before, that now the left is against Tesla. They were for climate change and electric cars and everything like this, but now Tesla's a threat. But people pointed out all the stuff Elon Musk has said and done, the Nazi salute, whether it was on purpose or whether it was autism, I don't know. And then, of course, people losing their jobs, federal workers. I don't think that's necessarily ever going to go over well with people. So I don't know who are the people who are exactly acting this out, or are they victims or whatever, but, people seem to be upset.
So what do y'all think the root cause of it? Because it's on both sides. Like, I have to come out and say that I think it's pretty much equal, storming the Capitol versus setting a Tesla on fire. If you understand what lithium is like one of the worst things you can do. And that was kind of my next question I was going to pose, because I'm like, the left is really about the climate, the environment. So it's like, how can you say you care about climate change, then burn down a clean energy product? To me, it's pure emotion.
If I go set a police car on fire, is that the same thing as me setting my neighbor's car on fire? Is that the same?
Yeah, it's the same.
But with a police car, I'm making some kind of political statement. I'm picking the police. So to me, it's kind of like, yeah, I get what you're saying. It's all destruction and chaos. But I think when it's like on the government and you're doing it on that behalf of a politician, this is like different than just a regular protest. And you're doing it because someone lost an election. I think that's a little different.
It's not a protest. It's a crime. And I think that's where we're losing. Like, even the people who stormed the Capitol, those individuals, those are crimes. And what I didn't like about the left is they try to make it seem like it was all MAGA or all conservatives that think like that. And that's not the truth. What's really being shown now to me is that there are just people who are emotional and can control themselves on both sides. And that's what's being shown now.
I can agree with that. That last statement, I can agree with that.
Yep. Easy.
No, I was gonna say it's different classifications. I mean, if you burn down a police car, that's like burning down state property or almost like government property. So I think it's in a different classification than burning down a civilian's car. But I don't think it's a terrorist act. Again, I think it's arson. Now if someone was in the car while it was burning, then I would say that'd be terrorist.
So the intent was a fight against Elon. Does that change it for you, or do you think it should be changed? Anybody can chime in on that.
Yeah. Like I think everybody agrees right now on the show. A lot of people are upset with Elon right now, for whatever reason.
But why are they upset? I mean, there's a root cause to it, and I think all of you are missing it.
Yeah, maybe I am.
Tell us a conspiracy.
Go ahead, Kylie.
It's not a conspiracy. It's the root cause is basically the class war and capitalism. I think that it was more symbolic of that than necessarily political, than, the politics of it. I think it has so much more to do with capitalist structures, and so many people are being harmed by those capitalist structures right now. We are in late stage capitalism. There is no doubt in my mind about that. And people on both sides, whether you're left or right, we're here to tell you the cost of living is really high right now. And you have billionaires like Elon Musk who are now running our government, or a part of that. And people are really pissed about that. And that, I believe, is the root cause. It's part of that resistance. And it's not necessarily, about the politics of it. It's about the class war.
You made an extremely good point, and I didn't think about that. And I think that that also brought a big microscope on class versus class, because now the world richest man is now working with Donald Trump. That's a valid point. I have to agree with you on that.
So what do we do about? Because I mean, burning up stuff isn't going to solve the problem. So can you think of
I
any
mean,
solution?
or is it? Because look back on, the Boston Tea Party. People have to get angry and violent before anything happens. And, as somebody who's anti-capitalist, I believe that. I don't believe in capitalism, especially late stage capitalism and what we're going through now. As a millennial, somebody in my 30s, it's hard out there and everyone's feeling the effects of that.
So might have to say that for another times. I got so many questions, but we may go off subject just far as the
we'll have to
whole
bring you back
last
again
point.
for sure.
Yeah. Because I know the opposite is socialism, and I don't agree with that either.
And I don't agree with socialism either. Yeah.
There's like a human factor. I think a lot of things are contributing to high prices. I think one of them is the freedom that we have, or the freedom. So that's why I'm like, we're going to have another subject on this. Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of the decisions and stuff that we make as society has contributed to why things are higher, not necessarily the government itself. All right, I'm going to go to the main topic. And this will be more for Kylie. I'm going to play a video that talks about open relationships. It's pretty much like the negative part of it, and I'll just leave it up to you to defend it.
Considering an open marriage or partnership, it's worth knowing that they have a 92% chance of failure, at least statistically. So let's discuss the 3 biggest reasons why they fail, and I'll save number 1 for last. So number 3, it's not actually a mutual decision. An open relationship has to be a win-win for both people in the primary relationship, and oftentimes it's coerced, or one person reluctantly goes along with it out of fear of losing their partner. Number 2, mutual boundaries and rules. The primary relationship must be healthy enough that both people can openly and expressly communicate, as well as agree upon boundaries and rules like, are we still having sex, and what can we explore versus avoid with other people. And the biggest reason why open relationships fail is because the primary relationship isn't healthy to begin with. Most couples try an open relationship because they're trying to compensate for something that's missing in their relationship. They think that all that's missing is sex or connection. If they can get this somewhere else, they can keep the partnership alive and intact. Not only do they lack the foundation and emotional tools to make this work, they're also ignoring the fact that most of these problems are due to underlying trauma, insecurities, and differences in core values. When it comes to these problems, an open relationship is generally going to make them worse. Check out the podcast if you want to go deeper.
What you think, Kylie?
Okay, so I'm a content creator as well, and I saw the hook, and the hook there was that 92% of open relationships fail, which is not credible. That's not backed by any academic research. Never has been, never will be. I've heard that before. And it's just kind of one of those things that people throw around. I think he probably threw that around as a hook to get people to watch his video. But I will be 100% honest. He did have a lot of decent points, especially the ones about how a lot of people do go into non-monogamous frameworks, and they think that it's going to be this band-aid. And I'm somebody who used to be a swinger. I was in the swinger lifestyle and an advocate for the swinger lifestyle. I am no longer a part of the swinger lifestyle, not because I think that there's anything wrong with swinging, or it's just not for me anymore. And I got divorced, but it wasn't because of swinging. It was because me and my partner grew and evolved past each other. Actually, if anything, swinging probably kept us together for longer. But again, if there's holes in your relationship, if your partner is not having sex with you, or your sexual connection is not good, or communication's bad, it's not going to work. And it's just gonna, put a magnifying glass on all the issues that you have. So I can agree with that and what he was saying about that. But the other stuff, the statistics and stuff like that were just absolutely not true. Actually, there's been real studies done, and they found that individuals who are in consensually non-monogamous relationships, they report similar, if not better, levels of satisfaction and trust and commitment and communication. So I'm not here to defend consensual non-monogamy. I'm not here to defend monogamy. I think it's the choice of what you want to do. If you want to be in an open relationship or if you want to be in a monogamous framework, it's up to you, but you're choosing that, not because society tells you what you have to do.
Anybody got any comments?
Yeah, I mean, me, like I said on here before, I lived with 2 girls when I was in college. I've had open relationships, so like, I mean, I understand the need, especially like for the guy, and I'm just talking about how men are physically, like we kind of like are supposed to like keep going and like have all of these mates. Like you look at wildlife, you see one male lion, you see a bunch of female lions. So I think some of the science behind it is like a guy may love his chick, but he may want to go out there and experience other stuff. And it keeps the relationship healthy because I feel like that's why we got a lot of infidelity because people don't feel comfortable saying, hey, I'm bored. Hey, like I'm not enjoying this or I want something else because they're going to be shamed or judged or the person's going to leave them. And sometimes it's just a person's physical desires. It's not necessarily an attack on a person that they're in a relationship with.
So do you think open relationships build anything or they just delay responsibility?
It depends on the situation. If you got 3 people in there in a poly relationship, there's more money, there's more people to help. If there's no spice in the relationship and you're trying to keep the relationship going and you add something to it and that kind of like buffers, like you're into the relationship more. It all depends. It's situational, I think. It depends on the couple.
Easy.
Yeah, I want to piggyback off what Grace said. It really just depends on the individuals. My personal experience when I was married, tried it, and then, hey, I'm divorced, so that just explains everything. So, it just depends on the individual. It depends on the agreement that y'all both have, and it depends on each other's mindset. That's pretty much it. I said in the last episode, I was confused because I was like really confused for real. Like no BS. I'm like, okay, how is it cheating if it's an open relationship? But Vulgar was like, it's based on the agreement. So I'm like, man, I tried it. It didn't work.
Yeah. And when I say based on agreement, that's just the details of the contract. The consequences, I think so many people forget about the consequences. That's why I'm not necessarily for it. I'm not necessarily against it either. But I will hunker down and say that if there are children involved, I think it's like the worst thing you can do. I think that's something like, I don't know if y'all know, like bees and wasps, like during spring and summer, their whole agenda is to get, to get nectar and all that and honey for the hive and get everything ready for the winter. And then around August, you'll notice this now. I'm saying you'll probably notice it. Wasps and bees tend to get more aggressive towards the end when fall's coming because they've done their job. And then after that, they can just go after meat. They prefer meat, but because they have a job to do, they have to go after nectar and pollen and stuff like that for the hive. And then after they achieve their job, they can do whatever. So I kind of feel like that's the thing with, I think monogamy is the best situation. I think a lot of people try to say, well, if you're not happy and to me, an open relationship is not going to help that. If you're not happy, that's like fruit of a poisonous tree to me. Like either you need to be healthy or that person need to be healthy. I need to have yourself together before I even talk about getting into a relationship. Because what you said, Easy, is what I'm seeing a lot. When I was researching to find these videos, what I was seeing a lot of is one person in a monogamous relationship wanted to open it up, right? And they either already had somebody that they plan on dealing with. They just wanted to basically not sneak around, sneak their way into it, or they wanted to go outside a relationship and not divorce the person. And then they started their thing. The other person who didn't want it was hesitant. And then when that person finally found somebody, the person they found they click with that person. And then the person who opened it up now wants to close it or is jealous.
And yeah, I want to add also, it wasn't my suggestion. It was my ex-wife's suggestion. So she the one that brought it to me. So hey, I got my hands up, dog. I did my part.
So is that what happened? Did she close it off? Like, did you go find somebody and maybe she looked better or was younger or something, and then she was like, I don't want to do this no more?
Nah, that wasn't the total say all of what happened to me, but that was definitely part of it.
Yeah.
Kylie, what about you? Was it your idea or was it the guy's idea?
So it was actually, so I came out to my ex as bisexual when we first started dating, and we had talked about doing like threesomes and stuff like that. And then he had brought up swinging to me. And I actually said no at first because I just wasn't comfortable with it. But after a while of, deciding, okay, we're going to do this and communicating about it, it did end up working. And I do think that I think that a lot of people think that that's what's going to happen. But a lot of people I know who are in non-monogamous settings and in non-monogamous relationships, truthfully, they have that conversation together and they make a mutual, shared commitment to it. I think a lot of people get really confused about what non-monogamy looks like because we don't actually have any good cultural representation, because all of the representation that people see, if they're not in these lifestyles, if they're not in these communities, is what they see online, is what they see from and I know that you guys referenced this in the last podcast, Nick Cannon and Neo, which are terrible representations of what non-monogamy is. They're not actually doing non-monogamy. They're doing, wanting their cake and eating it too. And that's not what non-monogamy is. Non-monogamy is unlearning monogamy. And that's really hard. And jealousy comes into that. And yes, agreements and boundaries are really, really important. And I kind of want to go back to what Vulgar said about the kids. There are no studies that say that children who grow up in non-monogamous settings are any worse off than monogamous settings. I think that a family and how you define a family is, teaching our children love, and are they supported? And we're teaching them open communication. We're teaching them consent. We're teaching them that the norm for families doesn't always have to look the same just because of what our society and cultural, representations of that are. As long as the children are loved, that's all that matters. And they've actually found that in non-monogamous settings, children are more, supported and loved and treated, better than in monogamous settings where parents are typically getting divorced. I'm somebody from a divorced, family. So.
Sorry, I didn't mean to disrupt you. I was just putting what people were saying.
No, yeah.
For me, it was definitely my idea. It was definitely spice it up or whatever. Do I feel like emotions get involved? Absolutely, especially on women's side. That they typically are the ones that's getting jealous, but guys get jealous a lot too, especially they don't.
No, it's actually the males more. So typically what happens is the males will come to their partner and say, I want to open up the relationship. And the women are they come and they find that, and this is actually why the divorces that do happen especially in the swinger lifestyle, this is what I've found from the community. The women find their confidence and they're like, oh, I'm confident. I'm feeling good about myself. And the men are seeing people aren't reaching out to them for dates, and it's harder for them because it is harder because you have 66% of the swinger lifestyle and non-monogamous lifestyle is men. And then you have 33% women. So there's more men, so it's easier. And these are just statistics. You can look these up. And so essentially what people see happening is the men get jealous and they're like, he's bigger than me. He's better than me. And they start to, want to close it up, actually. Their emotions get involved because women have more community to work through their emotions with and talk about their emotions. And unfortunately, men in non-monogamous settings are the most underserved community in that setting. And that's why I like working with men specifically, because they're underserved and underrepresented.
Yeah, I had an experience with that. I actually I had met somebody on Bumble, and she literally told me like right before the date that she was married and that the guy was okay with it. And he ended up coming on FaceTime during the date. Yeah. But she was saying that he was having issues as far as finding somebody. And to me, that sounds natural because a woman can go outside and pull a dude. A dude got to, a guy got to put in work. So, yeah, what you said is definitely true. A lot of men, in theory, they think it's good. And then when they see that it actually takes work for them to get somebody, it kind of messes the situation up. So not to keep going back and forth, but I want to give you a chance to basically, 85.
Your boys, that's what I say. Your boys,
You could stay away, huh?
Hey, yo, man, I'm out here. I just wanted to pop in and say, yo, I love what you guys doing. Shout out to the Man Cave. Unfortunately, I'm not there. Young lady, I agree with your views 100%. I wish I was on the panel with you guys, but I wanted to tap in with my brothers and let them know I ain't forget about them. I'm just on a business trip. But shout out to the Man Cave. That's all I wanted to say, y'all. Much love, man. Keep the show going.
Oh, yeah, get the bread, man.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So-
What you were asking Kylie, my bad.
No, I just wanted you to explain like what are the best ways to go about open relationships, because one of my other concerns besides family would be, right now the world is hot.
It is.
And that risk of if you do something and bring something back, what are some of the ways that you mitigate that risk? Because some things condoms don't help with.
This is true. And I think that it's so what they have found in the studies that they've done, because there's a lot of misconceptions out there about, swingers having STIs and people who are non-monogamous having STIs. But really, swingers and people who are non-monogamous tend to be more sex positive, and they tend to be more open about sex with each other. So what they found is they talk about it more. They talk about it more regularly. Think about people on dating apps who are single, who are dating, right? If you're somebody who's dating multiple people, if you're in your 20s, you're dating people, you're having sex with multiple people, you're more likely to not talk about it. Maybe, there's some shame there. But with people who are non-monogamous, they are finding that it's not more high risk to be non-monogamous. It's not more high risk to be a swinger because people are safe and protected and, getting tested more and talking more with their doctors. They're using birth control. They're using PrEP. They're using, a lot more protective measures as opposed to somebody who maybe doesn't have the education on that, or there's a lot of shame around that. And then you think about people who are cheating. Well, they're way more likely to bring home an STI because they're keeping it really hush hush. So I think that that's a very common misconception that people are just, swingers are just out there spread. I get it every day in my DMs and in my comments on my social media. You're just out there spreading STIs. And it's like, I've never known anybody in the lifestyle to get an STI, but I've known plenty of people who were not in the lifestyle or living a normal, sexually explorative life. Because the reality is we're sexual people. We just like to hide that a little bit more. I mean, people like to hide that, I think, more than somebody who's in lifestyle or non-monogamous.
Yeah, I want to clarify. I was not in an open marriage. She introduced a threesome to me. That's why I want to clear up. and that kind of made our relationship rocky. So no, she wasn't out effing other dudes, bro. She introduced a threesome to me, and then that made our relationship kind of rocky when I was in the military. So trying to have that and be in the military, it really didn't work, bro.
I agree, because that was with me. I'm not having no other men involved. It's gonna be only women. But I don't know if you want to go into it more, but what made it rocky? You don't have to go into it more if you don't want to, but
It just did, bro. It just didn't. I mean, like, it wasn't like instantly, like, you know what I'm saying? Just over time, it just became like, nah. And
do you think it,
after that, it became mutual. Like, okay. And she had other issues too. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, that was just one underlying issue. That wasn't just the main issue. It was that on top of that on top of that, and then that just kind of avalanche into something else.
so
It
you
put a
think that was just a
magnifying
way of
glass.
trying to say, yeah, was that a way of trying
Yeah,
to save the marriage, and
a
that
big
wasn't
old
real?
avalanche, like snowball effect.
So you didn't get to the root cause of the problem.
No, that was just one of the issues. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, I feel like when a lot of people do that, they're trying to put a Band-Aid on something, instead of getting to the real issue.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes, to me, like I said, I'm not for or against open relationships. I just think the reason a lot of people do it is avoiding like accountability. They not understanding that monogamous relationships have their benefits, but the dopamine part of it is not going to last. And I think a lot of people can't get past that after so many years of looking at the same person. You're not going to have that magic anymore. And I think that's what people be trying to get back, is that magic, instead of understanding that you're growing into accept the new norm. I feel like people who do last in monogamous relationships, they're not motivated by dopamine.
So let's say that it's not the boredom, right? But let's say like you meet someone and they have all the qualities of a good partner, but they don't have the superficial stuff. So you're not necessarily as attracted to them. Is that okay or grounds to say, hey, you have everything financial, emotionally, stability, but I'm working out every day, I'm doing this, I'm getting attention, like, so I want to like explore, but we have everything else. Is that not a valid solution?
What? It's just say
If
that
you're
last
not
part again.
attracted to your spouse, but they have everything else that fits the bill, but you want to go do something else because you want to be with someone you're attracted to, so you want to open a relationship.
No, I think you should. Me personally, I think you should end it.
What
I
about you,
agree.
Kylie? Have you ran into that?
I mean, I think that, and it's funny because like I'm somebody who socializes as a woman, so like I'm gonna have a different opinion on this, because for me, I think that attraction is definitely something that is not necessarily felt through the way that somebody looks. I think that for me, it's definitely more emotional, and I think that a lot of women are less visual than men. Women are more about the emotions and the feelings involved, and they can build attraction more so than a man. And like I 1000% recognize that just men are more visual, and like your point is valid. But I don't think that that's fair to the other person. Like, oh, I'm not attracted to you. Well, how about instead of like not being, how can you find yourself more attracted to somebody? Maybe work with them, if you want them to lose weight, encourage that, inspire them to take care of themselves more. Do that with them, as opposed to just being like, I'm just going to go find somebody that I'm more attracted to. And I don't believe that that's why most people get into non-monogamy. I think it has way more to do with like, they want to, be fulfilled in other ways. I don't necessarily think it's an attraction thing, but yeah, that's my opinion.
I agree with that.
No, I was gonna say. I mean, I think a lot of it's discipline. Like I've been with my woman for a long time, and every spring all the women come out their clothes, and I'm out and I see it. You know what I'm saying? I'm a man. There's an attraction, but there's a discipline in me that's saying that's off limits. And for me, I find I've always been like this. I find it makes me feel good to be able to turn that down. I'm like, okay, I'll look at it. I love watching women jog, and they super tight leggings. Now they got the kind that push the butt up. But I just think I think you have to grow. Like, just the open relationship thing to me is almost like a laziness for people who don't want to be disciplined and understand, because the other person has to deal with that. It's not really equal. So somebody's going to get jealous within it. I feel like if you're going to do it, it got to be like that from the start.
Yeah, or I
Like,
think solo
I think
by
a pimp,
yourself.
to me, it just be like, I would be a pimp. If I'm gonna have an open relationship, I'm just gonna be a pimp about it.
My bad. I mean to interrupt you, Kyler. What were you saying?
Well, I was going to say that, like, and this is something that I found with my clients, and this is something that I found in my own personal relationships, doing non-monogamy, is that you're not always going to meet each other at the exact same place. And if you do, I feel like you're probably lying. Somebody's lying to themselves, right? Like, there's always going to be a different evolution because we're all different people. And that's what makes it so difficult. And I think that that's really where the root causes are. Like, somebody might not get more jealous, or the boundaries may be different. So it's really hard to do it as a couple starting out, like, in a monogamous framework. And then, like, moving to non-monogamy is way harder than just like being non-monogamous from the start, or doing something like solo polyamory, or like relationship anarchy, if anybody knows what that is. But it's a lot harder as like a couple to do it, for sure.
Yeah, I have to be like Andrew Tate and just have a stable, an iceberg slim.
I don't know. I feel like it's every man's dream to have like 2, 3, but the problem is actually having to have a relationship with all of them.
Yeah, like, that's too many. That's
Because
too many emotions, bro.
it was just like fun, sure, but the emotions is a problem. That's how I see it.
And you got to have them on a schedule. Got one on Monday, one on Wednesday. They all want their time. Yeah, that's just too much. I'm cool.
That's a lot of juggling. That's a lot of juggling. You doing this all the time.
I'm gonna be mixing their names up. I mix my kids' names up. I'll be calling them.
Did you have another video? You want to do closing thoughts, Volker?
We could do closing thoughts.
All right, easy. We gonna have you go first. What's your closing thoughts?
Clothing thoughts is this show was an eye opener. Honestly, I always tell y'all this is like therapy for me. So I'm enjoying it. I appreciate y'all letting me be on this show, man, so I can get my thoughts out. I'm gladly appreciative, man, for real.
And Tyler, we definitely appreciate you for coming. Give us your final thoughts and shout out your platforms again.
Well, thank you guys for having me. It wasn't as scary as I thought it was going to be. So that's awesome. But definitely, I think if you're watching this and if I resonated with you at all, I would highly recommend, just kind of looking into some of the things that we talked about here today when it comes to non-monogamy, because remember that there's a lot of cultural messages about, how relationships are supposed to work. And truthfully, where we find the most love is within ourselves. And I truly wholeheartedly believe that. And if you are curious about me or anything that I do, so I have a podcast. It's called the Pineapple Express Podcast, where we talk about relationships, love. We don't necessarily just talk about non-monogamy. We talk about everything, sex positivity, sexual freedom. So, definitely listen to my podcast. Find me on Instagram. My name is at the Pineapple Express Podcast. And then on TikTok, I am at the Pineapple Express Podcast 1. So, if you're curious about anything, hit me up, DM me, email me, any way you want. I'm here.
For
Definitely.
sure, for sure.
Go ahead, bro.
My closing thoughts. First, I want to thank Kylie and the Pineapple Express podcast for coming. And like, comment, share, subscribe. This is the Man Cave every Monday and Wednesday. We're going to keep bringing you guys great content and new guests. I hope you're enjoying the show. Tuesday night is canceled. Laura hosts over there. She's on a cruise. Thursday, we'll be back to regular programming. On Wednesday, we're actually talking about cryptocurrency and XRP.
All right. Any type of relationship that you're going to choose or be in, basically just work on yourself, present your best self. I didn't get to say it during the podcast, what's going on, but yeah, just work on being your best self. And if you feel certain things in a relationship, like if you're in a monogamous relationship, I think you should get to the bottom of that instead of running to sexual things or running to other personalities, hoping that's going to fix it. And if you can't fix it there, I mean, they have no fault, which I totally disagree with. But other news, I've changed the name of my channel from the Vulgar Locker Room to Locker Room Therapy. Thank you, Easy. The name wasn't easily memorable, so this is easier for people to remember. I start getting subscriptions already. So y'all go over there and subscribe, because I'm a little bit crazier over there. And that's it.
For sure, for sure.
I appreciate all of y'all, man. And thank you, Kylie, for real.
Oh, yeah. Thank you
for
Kylie.
having me. Thank you.
Absolutely. We definitely got to bring you back. You guys have a wonderful night. I'll play the outro.
Introducing a new party. We live stream Monday through Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.